that's been going on around my house? And I was like, no. And he said, people are sleeping on mattresses out in the middle of the road. And I was like, okay. And he said something, just some strange things. I just kind of said, well, maybe things will get better for you, and I went on. Okay, well, as we're walking, turned around to look to see if he's gone, and she said, I have something I have to tell you. And I said, what? She said, Poppy ran over somebody this weekend and killed her.
For the first several days of this investigation, the Georgia State Patrol believed they understood what happened to Julie Jackson. The evidence appeared to point to one conclusion: Julie had been run over while lying in the roadway. That was the direction investigators were working. They interviewed witnesses, they reconstructed the timeline, they began piecing together Julie's final hours. Then everything changed. 4 days into the investigation, investigators received a phone call from the GBI medical examiner. According to the investigative summary, the medical examiner advised that several of Julie's injuries were not consistent with someone being struck while lying in the roadway. One injury to her leg was more consistent with Julie being standing. Another injury to her head was more consistent with her falling and striking an object than being caused by the vehicle that ultimately ran over her. That phone call changed the direction of this investigation. Now, investigators weren't just trying to determine who ran over Julie. They were trying to determine whether someone had struck Julie before she was ever in the roadway. And one name had already started surfacing: Penny Bracewell. By this point, investigators had already interviewed Jennifer. They had interviewed Doug Grimes. And according to one investigator, one particular name had come up twice: Penny.
Word on the street as far as
Up here, that's why I heard Penny. I heard Penny.
Penny hit her?
That's what I heard.
And that's
Josh and Julie's mom. Josh and...
That's the second time it's come up.
So investigators did exactly what investigators are supposed to do. They followed the lead. On August 27th, investigators went to interview Penny Bracewell. According to the investigative report, Penny appeared extremely nervous and coy in her comments. Those aren't my words. Those are the investigators. After leaving the interview, investigators located Penny's Honda Civic. According to the report, the vehicle had visible damages: a damaged hood, a damaged headlight held together with masking tape. The vehicle had no insurance, and it was being operated by an unlicensed driver. Investigators impounded the vehicle. Then they obtained a search warrant. For investigators, this wasn't just another interview anymore. Now they had a vehicle they wanted to examine. And after examining the Honda, investigators reached a conclusion. According to the Georgia State Patrol investigative summary, the damage observed on Penny's Honda Civic was not consistent with Julie Jackson's injuries. For investigators, that lead had reached its conclusion. But the investigation didn't stop there, because while investigators were examining Penny's vehicles, another witness came forward. Another statement, another possible lead.
My name is Trooper Cave. I'm with the Georgia State Patrol. And your name and number was given to me just in regards to a crash that we're investigating with a female.
Okay, well, this past weekend, I meet, okay, his name is Morris Johnson. When I met them, he was acting really funny, and he said some strange things to me, like, we don't talk at all. He said some stuff to me. He said, I don't know if you've heard about the commotion that's been going on around my house. And I was like, no. And he said, people are sleeping on mattresses out in the middle of the road. And I was like, okay. And he said something, just some strange things. I just kind of said, well, maybe things will get better for you, and I went on. Okay, well, as we're walking, turned around to look to see if he's gone, and she said, I have something I have to tell you. And I said, what? She said, Poppy ran over somebody this weekend and killed her, okay? And she said, I'm telling you, that's important, and stuff like that. And so I was very disturbed by it. Okay, when I come home that day, my mama picked her up that day. She told my mama the same thing. Okay? Well, I let it ride. Come Tuesday morning in the paper, voila, there it is. And I'm like, oh my God. Then I read that the paper said, that she could have already been hit and somebody hit her again. I don't know if there's any truth to it. I don't know if anything. Okay, Poppy's name is going to be Morris Johnson.
Now, at this point, the Georgia State Patrol had already changed the direction of the investigation. The medical examiner told investigators Julie's injuries weren't consistent with someone simply lying in the roadway. That led investigators to Penny. They interviewed her. They described her demeanor as extremely nervous and coy. They located her Honda Civic. They impounded it. They obtained a search warrant. And according to the investigative file, they ultimately determined that the damage to Penny's vehicle was not consistent with Julie Jackson's injuries. For many investigations, that would have been the end of the lead, but not this one, because while investigators were working Penny lead, another witness picked up the phone. And that witness introduced investigators to another name, Morris Johnson. Now, I'm not telling you Morris Johnson had anything to do with Julie Jackson's death. What I'm telling you is exactly what the investigative file shows. Investigators received information, and just like they did with Penny, they followed it. And that's where we're headed next. There are still some questions that haven't been answered. What happened to Julie's phone? Was the alleged deletion of information ever forensically examined? What information actually transferred between Baldwin County and the Georgia State Patrol? Why do we have recorded interviews from some witnesses, but not on others, like Josh, Brittany, and Eric, who were with Julie during her final hours? And what exactly did investigators find when they began following this new lead? We'll keep following the evidence, we'll keep following the records, and we'll keep asking the questions. This is Lamar King Sr., investigative analyst, New Media, where the truth will never be silenced. Be great today. Peace.